Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Amit Deshmukh. I'm a part of the NMIMS Global School for Continuing Education. I welcome you to our third series in the webinar series that some of you would have noticed over the past few um, for the past few months. The first one was on digital transformation. The second one was stories on startups. The third one, and I think that's we are bringing actually a mix of the first two and a lot more to you this time on, which is redefining leadership, leading in the new age. So we're going to look at leaders from different industries, different parts of functions, and they're all going to take us through their journey of leadership. They're going to talk about leadership in a very, very specific domain, which is how to lead in the new age. As most of uh, most industries are getting transformed in some manner or fashion by technology, by digital, and a lot of new and innovative aspects. Okay, the the talk today is by Shantanu Syam, the Chief Risk Officer of Angel Broking. Someone I would say who's young at heart and has a vast amount of experience. He's got about 25 years of experience. In Shantanu's words, Shantanu is a banker who's now gotten into capital markets. Shantanu comes with experiences across different domains, right from leading transformations to core business processes, and now at Angel Broking, Shantanu is amongst the senior most leaders there as Chief Risk Officer, right? So Shantanu is going to take us through leadership, especially in the age of fintech, as far as BFSI as a sector goes, and he will talk about his experiences as well as what he thinks are the key aspects to be able to lead uh, more so in the BFSI sector, but this also would apply across sectors. So yeah, I'm going to pause this here, but just a couple of quick instructions. The Zoom webinar chat, you could ask, uh, you could ask your questions there. I would request you to all keep as many questions at towards the end. That's when Shantanu will take most questions. But if you have questions on what he's talking about, you could always ask them in between. Yeah. I'm just going to pause for a minute. I'm going to request Shantanu to come on and join us here. Thank you very much, all of you, to be here. Just a moment, please.
Thanks, Amit, and good evening, everyone. My name is Santanu Syam, and I'm from Angel Broking. I'm delighted to be with you today and talk to you about leading in the digital age. I think, the subject is very, very relevant, and I think, it would be my pleasure to share my experiences with you, and toward the end of the session, I can take the questions from you to understand if there is anything more that we need to talk about. So let's start the conversation by understanding what do we mean by leading in the digital age. I think as people who are on this call, who are leaders or aspire to be leaders in the near future, the key change which has happened is leadership now is very much integrated with the use of analytics. And that is a huge, huge transition which has happened. Earlier, leaders were managing out of their domain knowledge and also by crunching a lot of data offline, which then they could evaluate to take business decision. Now, leaders have a very strong ecosystem built around analytics, and that really is where leadership transition has happened. All of you would agree that in all industries today, practically every industry, there is a data deluge. The amount of data which is available in structured and unstructured form is so very useful that as a leader, if you can pick up that data real time, analyze it, and help the organization take decisions, it is something which is not an option. It is something which is practically mandatory for a leader to succeed. So the vast amount of data which is available needs to go through three types of analytics which can help a leader succeed, and which I'm sure many of you would have heard of. The three types of analytic tools which are available is descriptive analytics, prescriptive analytics, and predictive analytics. Now, descriptive is when an incident happens or when an event occurs, to really describe what happened and how it happened is really looking at the data and making sense of the event that transpired to give more insights and make the leader much more knowledgeable in terms of future decision making. That's descriptive, is describing an event and how it occurred, and that knowledge itself helps the leader become better in the next time he encounters a similar event or incident. The second one is prescriptive. Prescriptive analytics actually tells the leader what is the right thing to do. Now, whenever you are caught in a decision making situation, you will have multiple options ahead of you. And prescriptive analytics helps you decide which has the highest probability of success. So prescriptive analytics helps you choose based on the analysis of existing data set what would be an option which has the highest chance of success. And predictive analytics is the third stream. It tells the leader, based on the ecosystem that we have and based on the way we are running our business, what are the likely events which can affect our business or the likely customer behavior which can impact our business. So predictive analytics helps you plan ahead and look at, if I can say, uh, look at a gazing ball, and you are able to see what are the likely events that might impact your business, and you can then prepare yourself to address those changes. So, I mean, to summarize, a leader today has abundant data, structured and unstructured, and there is this data can be used through the use of analytics to make yourself much more resilient in terms of not being open to surprises. And the tools which I described are descriptive analytics, prescriptive analytics, and predictive analytics. So this is where I think new age leaders differentiate themselves from the rest, the erstwhile leaders, is they understand their ecosystem much better, and they do that because tools like analytics are available. Now, when we talk of leading in the digital age, the fundamental difference is we as leaders have to create an enterprise where we are able to move away from what was with the organization to what will be with the organization. So by and large, you typically, when you are looking at your business or looking at your entrepreneurship, you will analyze what has happened. Now, what is more important and the skill which is more relevant is how much data you can use to predict what will be the future of the organization. And that is not a guess or not something which you are doing out of gut feel, but you are able to use the data science and analytics to really tell you what will be the future for the organization and what will be the key parameter you need to watch out for to succeed. Now, in the digital age, I think everyone will agree that leaders have to foster innovation. So innovation is something where you constantly need to try out options, find out which is the, I mean, you will obviously, there will be many failures. You need to be very quick to identify where the particular option has failed and move on to the next option. But you have to be able to select uh, many options quickly in the shortest possible time. And for that, you also need to be able to have good domain knowledge. So the the innovation under the underlying thing is you need to have good domain knowledge, but you also need to be willing and flexible to try out multiple options, be willing to recognize when an option has failed and then move to the next better option, and constantly keep getting better at what you do. On this subject, I think it is very important to understand something which is related to a subject called data science. It is called hypothesis testing, confidence, and error margins. So suppose there is a flight which is taking off, and you need to know what will be the number of passengers who will take that flight, so that accordingly you can price your ticket. So there will be multiple variables which will impact how many passengers will fly in that particular sector on that particular flight in the morning. Now there will be, you identify these variables, and each one of them you make an assumption, which is that people normally fly early in the morning, or you make an assumption that people who stay far away from the airport, some of them might actually arrive late for check-in. Now these are parameters which will impact the running of your airline and how you price them. And so in data science, what you do is you identify the parameters, you make certain assumptions which will impact the output, and then there is a statistical model which helps you test and find out which are the parameters which are most important and will impact the results the most. So again, like I said earlier, that you have to make choices. Similarly, when you are building a business model, you will have to pick up the key variables which you think is uh, affecting your business, and in this hypothesis testing you will be able to find out which is the parameter you need to look out and has the strongest correlation with the output. I can see someone has a question. Can you see the question? What the question is, please? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, fine. That's good. Okay. So, I mean, these are people who are joining in now. Fine. Um, Now, coming to the definition of a leader has to definitely have very strong domain knowledge, but he must also either through his own expertise or through the use of a team be able to build a business story which is understood by all his team members. Data analytics, things like data science, and things like machine learning, which are very strong tools to use in the business, will not be understood by everyone. So when you are looking at using these tools as a leader, you must ensure that your story that you build what is the business model, what are the parameters affecting it, what assumptions you have made, what is the correlation with the output, what is the correlation coefficient. All these things have to be explained to the people who run the business so that they don't feel that they are using a tool which is privy to only a few. Critical as a leader is whatever tools you use and whatever models you build using analytics, you must have the buy-in of the leadership team, and there must be very strong dashboard which tells people what you are trying to measure and what you are trying to achieve. So the dashboard must provide why and what of every problem, and how you are measuring that problem, how you are analyzing the problem, so that everyone is on the same page. We have to move away in the current digital age from preparing dashboards which are standalone, which are not real time. We really have to use as leaders integrated visualization and reporting of data, which is practically online, so that people can see real time what are the customer behavior, what are people saying or about your products and services, and real time be able to correct what is amiss to ensure that the customer experience is very, very high. So I think, before I move on to the next part of my discussion, I would like to summarize that the main change which is important in this age, digital age, as a leader has to build a predictive enterprise. What it means is he has to move away from talking about what has been the experience in the organization to what will be the experience of the organization using strong analytics and data science models. So this is the ecosystem which is so very fundamental for success in the digital age. People who understand analytics, people who understand data science are people who have studied the subject. Leaders also need to have very strong domain knowledge of the business that they control and find a way to integrate analytics and data science into their business model and build a story which everyone understands in simple integrated dashboard which are real time, which shows the team what is our business achieving or not achieving, what our customers are saying good and bad, and also being able to have a very uh, lean efficient system who can quickly address the feedback that you are getting on these real-time dashboard. So what I want you to take away from this is, in the digital age, the difference between a leader from the erstwhile business environment that we have is we as leaders have to build a very predictive enterprise using the right tools. I will now move to the next part of my discussion, which is around the workforce. Which is this one. Sorry. Okay. So, what are the qualities of the leader in the digital age? Before I get in, we did speak about the technology part of it. What are the requirements? But fundamentally, a leader in today's day and age should be willing to be very, very humble, but have a fierce determination to achieve what he sets out to do. The workforce is very young now, very young. They are the millennials, and the leader who leads the business will have to be willing to really have the bandwidth to be very, very humble and allowing these people to work with him and try out different options, fail quickly, change, and get better at doing things. But there has to be another strong characteristic, which is a very intense personal will to succeed. Because you can keep encouraging innovation. You can keep encouraging people to get better, but ultimately to run a business, you will have an objective which you will have to achieve. To do that, there has to be an intense personal will that at any cost, within a given time frame, I will finish what I set out to do. While doing that, whatever success comes through must be recognized and the team rewarded for it. You should not, as a leader, be looking at taking away uh, uh, the glory. Let the team savor the glory, and you should be willing to step in with them and guide them on what is the end objective and what is the time frame which has to be met at any cost. So, I mean, here there are two, if I can say, diametrically opposite traits which are required in a leader. He has to be very, very humble and willing to work in teams, and willing to take the teams along with him, which is very, very soft quality which is required. Whereas on the other side, from a business perspective, he needs to have a fierce conviction that what he set out to do is achievable and will be done in the defined time frame. Now, when you set out to do a business, you need to now have very, very specific people for each role. Boarding the right people for the role is imperative for success. If there are roles which require specific skill sets, like I said, if there is someone who is very good at content writing, someone who's very good at digital marketing, someone who's very good at analytics, someone who's very good at the NLP. These are specific skill sets which are available in the market, and if the role requires that, you should be willing to bring in that role, new people for that role, or at least find people within your organization who are willing to invest their time and learn the specific requirements of a role. So boarding the right people for the role is imperative in the success, because now we don't run businesses based on generalists. Every role that is there today in our businesses are very, very niche and require specific skill set. So when a role is created, what is the skill set required is important. Once you've done that, you should be able to find that skill set within the organization. And if it is not there, you should be bold enough to go out and get someone to fill that role. But you cannot run this with generalists, because every role has now become very, very niche and intense, and that is a key requirement for success. One thing which every one of you would have noticed, that there has been a huge, huge success of people and organizations who have ventured out into innovations. We're not trying out different things, trying out new products, trying out new strategies. And these companies are successful because they have risked their existing business model and started looking at new ways of doing things which has appealed to customers. But as a leader, you must ensure that all innovation is backed up by disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. This is because, when you are leading innovation, there will be diverse ideas, lots of ideas. Each one of them will require money, effort, time. And to channel all of that and find out what works for your business requires very, very strong discipline. So you have to encourage innovation, but at the same time, you must ensure a very strong thread running through all the people, which is that discipline of time, money, effort, and completion of activities in time is something which cannot be compromised at any cost. Finally, in this digital age, I think it is important, because we have so very specific roles requiring specific skill sets, and innovation is fundamental to success. And there are so many technology tools available to make innovation, foster innovation. I think it is important to recognize that first we need to find the right people, then we need to look at what we want to do with our business and how to get there. So fundamental to success in the digital age is to find the right people first, to fit the roles, and then as a team you decide where do you want to go and how much time you're willing to devote to get there. So that's really the leader's role in the digital age. Uh, Now, this next part of my discussion is around the workforce, the people who will um, be bulk of who will do bulk of the work in the organization. They are the millennials, and the millennials are people who are having specific DNAs, which is important to recognize because it impacts how you're going to run the organization. All right. So the Gen X, which was there, was from the year 65 to 78 born, 79 born, sorry. And the millennials are people who were born between 1980 to 1995. And the next generation, Gen Z, is between 96 and 2010. We are talking of a workforce which comprises today mostly of millennials, which is in the age group 1980 to 1995 born. What are their fundamental behavioral characteristics? And that is something which a leader needs to understand, because he's going to manage a team, and unless he understands his team well, he will not be able to succeed, because the whole process depends on understanding the people and getting them to do what the organization has set out to do. The first one is curiosity. The workforce is young. The millennial workforce has a fundamental DNA, which is curiosity. They need to know the reason for doing something. You have to tell them why you are doing something. You just can't tell them because you are a leader or you're the boss that I want you to do this. You, to get a buy-in for the objective, you have to tell the millennial workforce what is the reason for doing something. Curiosity is a primary requirement of the workforce. The second one is the millennial workforce are job hoppers. They need constant challenge. Every 6 months, 1 year, they get bored with what they are doing. And if you don't give them a fresh challenge every 6 months, 1 year, they're going to move on to the next organization. So fundamentally, you need to recognize you might have the best of talent. They might be achieving a lot of things which you want them to achieve, but they are not going to be happy because they are job hoppers and they are hungry for the next challenge. And you need to recognize that and be proactive and keep giving them roles which keeps their enthusiasm flowing, and they don't get bored in their current role. This generation of workforce are tech savvy, which I think I don't need to elaborate. They're always connected. They're always on the net, and they are constantly sharing their experiences. They know the latest developments in around the world, not only in technology but everywhere. They're real time, always connected generation, and that gives them so much more power in understanding what is that the organization is doing, and the organization needs to recognize that they are much more aware than the traditional workforce. Um, they are all accepting and embracing. They look for diversity. They want different cultures. They enjoy working in a culture which encourages diversity. They like to work with people across countries. They like to work in organizations which provide diverse experiences. So diversity is a key requirement. And so when you create a team, I think you have to look out for the fact that this millennial workforce, their one satisfaction factor is how much diversity there is within the organization, and whether they are being bracketed in a small area where their exposure is limited. Um, Also, the next point is balance is everything. The earlier work-life balance used to be one of the good things an organization could provide. Now, work-life balance is everything. If it is not there in the role that they are doing, they are going to leave you. So when you set up your expectations and your objectives, keep in mind that this workforce, which is the millennial workforce, if they don't find a work-life balance, they are not going to work for you. So you have to make plans around the fact that work-life balance is a fundamental requirement of their expectations. In and the finally, I think in their DNA, the the workforce here is very, very aggressive in terms of uh, demanding what they need and what they need to know, and they are not shy of voicing their opinion. So they believe that if you don't ask, you don't get. So you should be willing as a senior leader to be looking at working with your teammates who are constantly challenging you and asking you and telling you that something is not as per their perception, or they don't agree with something. They will be very, very vocal in their views. They will not hesitate to tell you that what you are doing is not making sense. So these are the DNA which the current workforce um, completely imbibed, and you must recognize them when creating a team. These are fundamental, because if you recognize them, you will be able to attract the right talent, and more likely you will be able to succeed. What do we need to do as a leader to attract this workforce? I think the first one is they look for organizations that prioritize culture. Now, culture means that they love organizations where there is an atmosphere of creativity and morale. So I think they, before they join an organization, they have network with their friend, they have find out on social media. Any organization which is fostering creativity and morale has a good chance of attracting the right talent. So I think creativity, morale, and the right work culture is fundamental to their deciding where they want to join. You as a leader have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that what you are doing around this area is available on social media, where people can see it, people can exchange views on it, and they can validate that this organization believes in a work culture with which they can associate themselves with. The second point is work. They want to enjoy their work experience. So work is not seen as something which is discrete from their life. So work is very much part of their life, and whatever work they want to do, they want to enjoy it. They want to be happy in doing what they are, and they don't want to see work as something which is imposed upon them. So the work that you give them, they must understand why they are doing it. It must make sense to them. You should give them the flexibility to challenge and ask you questions, and they should enjoy the work experience if you want them to contribute and stay with you as a team. They will they will appreciate open and honest communication. They want to know what you think about the work they are doing. They want to know what is your view of a problem that they're solving. They want to know what is it that they're doing well, what they're not doing well. They don't want this to be a formal, sort of discussion. They want constant feedback, and they want you to take constant feedback from them. They want you to give them constant feedback, what's working, what's not working. And that is something as a culture is very, very important for them, because they believe that open and honest communication is something which is fundamental to creating a right work environment. They want flexibility. They want flexibility in terms of working hours and from where they will work. So if you are able to build a model where you are able to give them the flexibility on working hours, and whether they can work from home, whether they can work from a shared service center, whether they can work from a location which is not where your office is, I think you're more likely to get the right kind of talent. But like I said earlier, I think these are things which also have to be embedded with discipline, so that you don't lose control. But flexibility is critical in attracting talent. They're looking for flexible work hours. They're looking for location which suits them, and that is something which, as a model, you need to factor in while attracting the workforce. And finally, you need to know that in attracting the workforce, the domino effect is very, very critical. It's in uh, the workforce will share whatever they experience, good and bad, on social media with their friends, with their influencers, with their circles that they have, and hence you need to watch out that the domino effect is positive for your organization, because whatever they feel, whatever they experience, they're going to put it out to the world. For them, accessing the world is now through social media is very, very part of their life, and they love sharing what they have experienced. Um, Finally, I think you as a leader need to look at how to engage with these young millennial workforce. Um, so, what are the things we spoke about? The DNA of the millennial workforce. We said what we need to do to attract the workforce, and now we'll move on to how do we engage with them on a day-to-day basis and keep them fully energized and motivated in the work they are doing. I think the fundamental thing is this workforce, the millennial workforce, looks at social impact as being very, very important. Whatever the organization is doing must have a social impact. So I think besides if you are doing a business, they must understand how that business is also helping society, either directly or indirectly. But the impact that the business has on society in a positive sense needs to be explained, and they value that very, very. Besides money, for them social impact is critical. So they will choose an organization which is contributing to, say, the green revolution rather than a company which pays more. So if there is an agenda, overall agenda on improving society, improving the ecosystem, improving the environment, it makes sense to share it with them, because for them that is something which is important to remain engaged in what they are doing. They want to socialize, they, for them, being social is not a distraction. They believe that the work family is also a part of their family. So you must have an environment where they are free, without any apprehension, without any worry. They should be able to share their experiences, their learning, their apprehension, their question, their frustration, and it should be like you are within talking to your own family and sharing it without fearing that what will the organization think about it. So give them a free hand to socialize, and giving them access to Facebook and other social media, which with other social media which is available, where people can freely share their thoughts and experiences, is something which is critical for engagement. They need mentors. This workforce which is young needs people who can share their experiences from the learning that they have over the years. So they would really value if seniors are assigned to them who will quickly be able to share their experiences, and they can learn from those experiences. They need people who can engage with them, talk to them about their experiences in the domain, and these mentors will also be able to tell them that the mistakes that they made, the successes that they have, and this workforce wants that channel to be open so that the seniors are freely interacting with them, and they are able to learn from them. And of course, I mean, this workforce is again very, very focused on celebrating success. So any sort of success, small or big, needs to be celebrated. The people should be recognized. Recognition and appreciation needs to be freely flowing, because this energized workforce which is there, for them being appreciated at the work is much more important than money, and this recognition which they get is much more important than the promotion and career. So every day they must feel someone is looking at them. Whatever they are doing is making sense for the company. They must understand what they are doing is making sense for the company. And of course, as and when they complete their little activities which adds up to the big goal, those must be celebrated and recognized. Finally, this discussion around leadership in the digital age is not about technology, but about the leader recognizing that there has been a new workforce which has come in, a young workforce, a workforce which is dynamic, challenging, very enterprising, willing to learn, willing to take risks, willing to fail. They want options, they want to socialize, and this means that the organization culture has to change. And what is the culture that the leader needs to encourage and develop? The first one is you must have a very strong infrastructure to help people gather knowledge. People should be encouraged to learn. The ecosystem that you have within the organization should help people in self-learning. People constantly want to learn not only about areas on which they're working on, but everything which is going on around the world, not only in technology but in other businesses, about people, about other countries. And the quest for knowledge is something which is a prime cultural driver in the current digital age, and you must build that ecosystem. There are people who have strong domain knowledge, and you have to set up a system where the organizational expertise is shared with the young millennial workforce. They're able to identify what are the risks that people have faced, so that as and when they are trying out innovation and new options, the likelihood of making the same mistakes is minimized. So they want mentors, they want people with strong domain knowledge to be freely accessible, sharing their experiences, and that helps them minimize risk and be more successful in their roles. They obviously would be very happy. Like I said, they get bored very easily. You might provide opportunities for them to try out different things, to learn quickly from failures and succeed. You have to constantly provide opportunities. The work culture must encourage people to try out new things, should not be afraid of failure, and as they learn, they should be able to get better at what they're doing. You have to create a culture where people freely share their experiences in learning, and both good and bad, and that is something which is seen as a positive way of uh, making the organization better. So helping them socialize freely without any apprehension is to be, again, a very strong cultural change which needs to happen. And finally, I think, as a leader, whatever assignments you take on, whatever objectives you set out, you must walk the talk. You cannot be sitting in an ivory tower and setting up objectives and setting up goals and setting up milestones. You have to be fully involved with the teams, going through the pains on successes, and being able to experience the joy of success, and also the pain of failure with the team, so that they see you as integral to the team and not someone who is only setting up a plan and leaving it to the workforce to do. So walking the talk, making some clear statements about being able to uh, ask people to try out different options, encouraging people to take risk and succeed quickly, is something which is very fundamental to this work culture that we are speaking of. So in the digital age, to summarize, I think, primarily the leader is someone who has to understand that technology is available, and it must be something he uses to become um, develop a predictive work environment. He must understand that the team that he's working with has a very different DNA and the drivers to keep them fully engaged on a day-to-day basis. And finally, the work culture must be such that people who join are enjoying their work and are happy sharing their experiences with their friends and peers, is fundamental to success as a leader in the digital age. I think I have finished what we were talking about. If there are any questions, I'll take it on now. If there are any questions, please, can you use your chat to send in your questions, please? Okay, so someone has asked a question about data science. Data science is around the use of statistics and statistical models to build a business model where you are able to predict what is the likelihood of success. So, very good example, like I told you, is airlines use it very, very effectively to say that if a flight is taking off at 8 o'clock in the morning, how many people are likely to book tickets in the last 2 hours? How many people are likely to miss their flights? How many people are likely to change their flights? All these things are the use of data science. Data science is the use of statistics, and uh, it is now something which has been programmed so that you can identify the key parameters which will influence the output, and you can also predict what is the likelihood of that output being achieved. It will show you a probability of success. So data science is entirely based on statistics. It helps you find out which are the key parameters which will influence the outcome, and it also tells you the probability of that outcome being achieved. I think someone has asked the question is what is the most important trait of a leader? I think the one which I would personally vouch for is the one which I spoke about in the beginning, that he must have genuine personal humility with intense personal will, which means that he must be a very strong team player. He must be humble. He must be willing to listen. He must be willing to be challenged. He must be willing to be corrected. He must be willing. He must be flexible to change what he has, um, change his ideas, and take inputs from his team. But at the same time, he must have a fierce conviction that what is the end result to be obtained. So, like I said, the trait which is so critical, most important trait is genuine personal humility with personal will to succeed. Um, there is a question on how to motivate team wherein money plays an important role. I think uh, the point over here is the millennials today use work as one of the avenues of making money. So there are multiple ways. I mean, all of them typically, most of them at least, would typically look at multiple streams of making money, and one of them would be the job. So you have to open up, teach them areas around financial planning, investments, and other activities which they can do as a consultant or a part-time work where alternate revenue streams are available to them. Typically the millennial workforce would not be satisfied with only money which comes from their job. They would want a secondary line of income, and that is something which you as a leader must create a visibility for them, what they can do over the weekend, what additional work they can do as a part-time worker or a consultant, what are the areas where they can make more money through investment. These are things which is important, where money is important to motivate the team. What are the best, how can you get access of data in public domain into analyze the cinnamon data? I think, the data which you need for your business, there are enough tools which are available under the Google umbrella, which should take care of all the needs which you have to run a business and analyze it, etc. Now, I think if you go to the basket of tools which Google has made available, practically everything which you need, including data analytics, including integrated data visualization and reporting, including predictive analytics, all of it is available under the Google umbrella. And if you go onto the Google suite, you'll find all the tools that are required to cover what we discussed in the last 1 hour. I think, there is a question about today's generation between 1996 to 2010, which is Gen Z. Gen Z, I think, the requirements are a little more, if I can say, the time frame that they keep for themselves in respective organizations has shrunk further. They are obviously much more, if I can say, flexible, much more willing to move organizations, and they are willing to do different kinds of jobs, which is enjoyable. So the current generation between 96 to 2010, they want a lot of variety in their job. Their criteria for sticking to an organization is one which is fun, a lot of fun at work, and a lot of variety at work. That's really what is driving the young new generation today. Okay, there is a question on what are the tools available for business reporting. I think, all the tools which are required, like for business reporting, are available. Like I said, on SAP, they're available on Google, they're available on all the platforms which are today being used, like Oracle, etc. All of them have a business intelligence module where data is real time streamed into the module, and you can see on a dashboard real time what kind of output or what kind of behavior the customer is experiencing. So I think all the recognized players like Google, Oracle, SAP, all of them have a business intelligence module where data is integrated real time from the different systems where the customers are interacting, both internal and external customers. It is analyzed, and real time it is throwing up a output which you can see on a dashboard, what has been the experience. There's a question that understand the data analytics require knowledge in computer program language skill. How a non-IT background can cope up? Okay, so today the advantage is that statistics and programs have all been integrated into menu driven packages which are available for people to use data science. So you don't need to be a high skilled programmer, or you don't need to be super expert in statistics to really start using all the tools which are there in data science. These are all configurable on your laptop. These are all drop down menus which are there. The critical part, of course, in using data science is to have the right data set. When I say right data set, it means that the raw data which it needs to go in needs to be correctly formatted. The right parameters needs to be correctly indexed, and that data, once it goes in there are menu options on the data science packages which are available, which are programmed in R and Python, where you can use the drop down. If you know the fundamentals, which is very easy to learn, that how do you measure the correlation of a parameter with an output, how do you measure the probability of a success of an output, then these tools don't require you to be experts in programming or statistics. You need to know conceptually what does each of the parameters mean statistically, and what are the menu options which you can use to pull the data from the raw data, and the system will automatically analyze it and give you the output. In the old world, you would have to run through complex statistical formulas and models to derive the same output. Today, these have all become programmable packages which are available, and you can use it to get the output in a few minutes. Okay. I think there's a question on attrition. How can we effectively control attrition? I think we shouldn't look at how to control attrition, but I think you should look at how to make the workplace so enjoyable, so attractive, and so meaningful for the employee that they whatever are their traits which I discussed are available to them, and they get connected with the organization through that experience. So if you are not addressing some of the DNAs which I explained to you, then they will start looking at opportunities outside, and maybe you will lose people. But I think if you are able to build the DNA which we spoke about for the millennials, you will find more of them coming to you with ideas how to make the workplace more enjoyable, how they can contribute more, how they can learn more, how they can get some of their friends to join. All of that is something which is strongly dictated by their experience and their sharing on social media. So build a work environment where they are very free to share ideas, to bring in ideas from outside, to bring in their friends from outside, and build a workforce which is very well connected like a family, and not look at it as whether the next organization where they go to, they will get what they're not getting here. So I think if you understand their aspiration, you should be able to build that into the daily work culture. I think secondary source of income. Obviously, someone has said that while applying in an MNC, they said that you cannot have a secondary source of income. I think what you're talking of is a conflict of interest. You're expected to contribute to the organization and work, and you are neglecting that work, and you are doing some other activity which generates a secondary source of income. That is not what I was talking about. I was talking about you are say content writer. So you are doing work, content writing during the week in office. Over the weekend, when you have free time, you are able to connect with some content writing houses and contribute there and generate income. Now, what these opportunities are, if the organization is able to open up these opportunities to you, you can, in your free time, that it doesn't affect your work at the organization where you're employed, then it's a good likelihood you will stay in this organization, because money which you are getting from the organization is also complemented by the secondary source of income, which is the important criteria for the millennial workforce. Okay, let's see. There was okay. I think data science courses are available at most of the educational institutes which are teaching engineering technical institutes and the management institutes across the country. Data science, like I said, is subject which is built around statistical model, and statistics is used to build likelihood of probability of outcome and the importance of parameters which drive the outcome. You don't need to be a technical expert to learn programming, nor do you need to be a statistical expert to use data science. You need to fundamentally understand the concept. How do we measure results? How do we build a data set which is relevant to the problem? And if you are able to do that, everything is today available as a programmable tool which you can use to generate the required outcome. The data science courses which you could look at is something which are available. A lot of online courses are available. But I think some of the top institutes like the IIMs have very good, like IIM Bangalore has a very good data science course which you can subscribe to online, and they also have classroom sessions where the concepts are taught. It is a 7-day kind of course which you can participate in, and they will teach you how to use the different tools which are available in the market for data science. I think we have covered the subject. I think most of the questions which were there, we have been able to address it. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure interacting with you, and wish you all the best for your future. Thank you so much.
Actually, we also have some questions on our Facebook Live. Yeah. Would you mind answering them? It says, these are the questions. How to test the hypothesis?
Okay. Which software offers real-time data and visualization? So you can use Google Analytics. What will be required is all the databases which you have will have to be integrated with the Google Analytics tool. You also have SAP Business Objects which you can use for real-time data analysis and visualization. There's a question on distance learning data science course. Like I said, all the engineering colleges, the top engineering colleges in the IIMs, they have online courses which you can subscribe to, and these are typically complemented by sessions which are held in classrooms over the weekend. You can also do an online course where you can participate over the video. It's fairly easy to learn, and it's something which will be very useful in any business that you are in. Yep. Thank you so much for your time. And I think we had a good opportunity to share that a leader in the digital age, besides knowing his own domain, also needs to understand the work force that he is working with and what is the work culture he needs to build to succeed. I think, I wish you all the best for the future. Thank you for your time.
How is it? Hi, sorry, I'm Vidushi. I'm in the marketing team. I'm the social media manager, which is it's like Facebook Live. Also, we have questions. People really, is there comment?